I am the Dungeon Master. We've got a Dragonborn Paladin, a Tiefling Artificer, and a Drow Bard. So the characters went from Strixhaven, completing their first year, and then ended up in the Feywild, in the service of Guy Fieri, Mayor of Flavortown! I was always more of a Gordon Ramsay girly, but Fieri's cool too. They need to get out of the Feywild. Guy has sent them to get 3 artifacts so he can send them home. The first artifact is a bandit tower that I ran in the homebrew campaign. Alongside it were some art pieces. Now apparently I'm not good at math as I accidentally multiplied the amount I rolled by the average amount, so they had hundreds of art pieces to sell when they got back to town. Where did they, keep them? Welcome to my shop. Welcome to my humble shop, adventurer. Is there anything you'd like to buy? Oh, I'm not actually looking to buy anything. I'm looking to sell. Oh, well, I would be happy to take any valuables off your hands with my inexplicable amount of seemingly infinite wealth to buy stuff from you. Great, sweet. It's just in here. What exactly are you selling? Is it like a diamond or... Oh, no, it's a painting. How did that... Can I buy that back? What the Rather than backpedal my mistake, I ran with it. And the art merchant they sold it all to ended up going bankrupt and had to close up shop, which makes the skit I just made way funnier. That art guy would end up becoming an adventurer, since apparently that ends up netting more gold than becoming a merchant. One day, I plan on playing a dwarf trickery cleric of Joaquin, who keeps recalling his distaste of dragonborn tieflings and drow. Anyway, I hope this got a chuckle out of you, and if you decide not to use it, cool, it is what it is. Keep up the good work. Well, I did end up using it. Look at that. Taking mistakes and spinning them into good moments for your campaign is one of the most fun things to do as a dungeon master. And even small things can end up becoming memorable moments for your player characters. But, spoiler alert, we're not looking at small things this episode. After much debate, I finally decided to share my D&D story. My cousin Gus and I wanted to give D&D another try after our first campaign ended abruptly. Our friend Matthew, who had been the DM for our first campaign, was eager to try again and fulfill his dream of running a full campaign. Since Matthew didn't have time to write a campaign from scratch, neither he nor Gus cared much for the setting. So I suggested Tal'Dorei Reborn, which they agreed to. Our group consisted of me, Gus, Priscilla, Gus's ex, who remained on good terms with us, Barbara, my girlfriend, and Stephen, Matthew's brother. With the exception of me, who only had some D&D knowledge from being a Critical Role fan, no one, including Matthew, was familiar with the rules or the setting. To help, I create detailed guides on everything from character building to Exandria's lore, hoping to simplify the process and shared it in our campaign's Discord, where our sessions are going to take place. Which makes you an angel, by the way. Priscilla stood out by reading everything and putting real effort into her character. While Barbara and Gus received my assistance, the 4 of us really focused on placing our characters in Exandria and making them feel like they belonged in that world. However, issues arose quickly. Matthew, always busy, didn't assist with character sheets or provide any feedback as the DM. This left Gus and me to handle character creation, set up Foundry with all our character sheets and all our add-ons, from spell animations to quality of life for the first-timers. And am I the only one who doesn't do that? Just give me tokens, give me a map, give me an initiative tracker. That's all I need. Look, we were essentially the assistant DMs. All DM Matt had to do was prepare the campaign and the sessions, which I know that's a lot of work, but I soon realized he didn't put much effort into anything beyond the foundations of the campaign adventure. Which is already established in the book, so I'm gonna be for real, he didn't even do that, man. We had 2 to 3 months to prepare, but Steven, the DM's brother, also refused to read any guides or books. Instead, he joined a call with Gus and me, and randomly picked options from D&D Beyond, resulting in a barbarian bugbear with a ChatGPT-generated backstory about a savage who lived in the woods his whole life, and... it's the most ChatGPT shit I've ever heard. Wow, a bugbear barbarian who lives in the woods! Where did the AI get this idea? Unsurprisingly, when the campaign started, he didn't know how to play nor roleplay his character. The first session, which was supposed to be like session 0, was thrown together 30 minutes before we started. Matt had the lore tab ready, but didn't take any time to pick up the maps we wanted to use. There were no NPC tokens to import into Foundry. Despite the lack of preparation, everyone was excited. Our characters were meant to meet in a bar, notably different from a tavern. But still, things got messy. Priscilla, despite being a first-time player, excelled at role-playing. She not only read the guides, but also delivered a natural and engaging performance. Gus and I handled our roles as expected, and Barbara just wasn't available to play. Steven, however, the young brother, this guy was a disaster. He was unfocused and unresponsive until directly called upon multiple times, even during his character introduction. He blamed this on chatting with Priscilla and Gus on the campaign Discord chat, which wasn't true since everyone could see the public chat and they exchanged only a couple messages during the session, as Gus and Priscilla were actually paying attention. His roleplay was robotic. He didn't know how to play his character, so he struggled with making a simple conversation and took a while just to find what he thought his character would say. This frustrated everyone, including Priscilla and Gus. After the session, we just shared our feedback with Matt, asking him to talk to Steven about improving. But this led to a bigger problem. Matthew and Steven are super protective of each other. Any criticism of one is taken personally by the other. Predictably, Matthew refused to address our concerns about his brother. Despite this, everyone remained hopeful that next session would improve. There is no evidence that something will get better. But hey, it might get better anyway, you never know.
Who hurt you? And why didn't it stick?
The mistake on my part was trying to make everything run as smoothly as possible. I know I'm not perfect, but Steven was really starting to bother me. One thing I didn't mention before is that Steven, Matthew, and I had issues in the past for the same reasons I mentioned earlier. I'm an honest person with my friends. In the past, when we played other games together, I criticized Steven for straight up lying and blaming others when he was the problem, which led to multiple arguments with both brothers, since one always sided with the other. Gus agreed with me, but always chose to stay out of it. After all, we're all adults in our 20s and should be able to stand up for ourselves, which is why Gus never took my side, even though he's my cousin. Hey, sometimes a backup is helpful, okay? Help me out, man! With that in mind, I asked Gus if he could talk to Matthew about his brother, since they were good friends, but Gus just never followed through, so I approached Matthew myself. I asked as politely as I could if he could have a conversation with his brother, aware that if I came across as criticizing, it could lead to an argument, which unfortunately still happened. I wanted him to address the inconsistency in their portrayals of the character, both the DM and the player. Matthew was narrating his brother as a dumb savage, while Steven portrayed him as smart and civilized, creating a disconnect that just broke the immersion for everyone. Instead of addressing my concerns, Matthew started blatantly deflecting, his primary complaint being the way I voiced my human character. I reminded him that his brother's voice acting wasn't the issue. My concern was the inconsistency in just the roleplay. Matthew ignored this and fixated on how I wasn't using a different voice, which wasn't the point. I'm not a voice actor, but everyone, including me, was doing our best to portray our characters. I even told him that if he had any criticism about my roleplay or anything else, I'd be happy to hear it, but Matthew claimed he had no feedback, despite his earlier attacks. Also, bro, this is not what the conversation is supposed to be about. Hey, DM, I was hoping we could talk. Oh, I'm sure you would just want to talk about how much you love the campaign. Oh, yeah, I've been having fun. It's just, you know, your brother, his roleplay can be a little bit, Yeah, but what about your roleplay, okay? Like, your character voices are definitely not the best, alright? Like, you know, you have to admit, I mean, I can work on that, but dude, that's not what we're talking about. I'm trying to talk about your brother's roleplay. It's kind of... Yeah, but what about the barbarian, okay? Like, his combat, it's kind of min-maxy, don't you think? Like, seriously, okay, can we focus for like 5 seconds, okay? Your brother's roleplay is... But what about the warlock? I mean, the warlock's backstory is so main character-y, and you only feed into it. I mean, really, you're the real... Oh my god. It worked! Ben Shapiro. Your debate took
Well, personally, I just don't agree with the idea of turn, okay? If I listen to the media, make the...
We argued for a while, and I eventually sent him another message reiterating that the issue was maintaining narrative consistency and how his brother sounded, even though Steven was speaking like a robot and clearly didn't know how to respond in character. Matthew grew defensive and insisted I was being too critical of his brother. I tried to explain that my goal was to keep the game enjoyable and cohesive for everyone, but he refused to listen. During our argument, Matthew went to Gus to ask if what I was saying was true. Gus, trying to avoid conflict, told him that Steven's roleplay wasn't an issue for him personally, despite telling me just the night before it was. This led to Matthew to believe that I was criticizing Steven solely because of our past issues, which made him even more defensive. Eventually, I was unwilling to speak to Steven, but after that, he ghosted the entire group. The campaign just stalled indefinitely. After 2 months of silence, Matthew recently resurfaced on Discord, blaming his absence on not being in a good state of mind and hinting that the campaign might continue. Despite the drama, it wasn't all bad. Barbara, Priscilla, and even Gus were amazing players. I genuinely enjoyed my sessions with them, and I'm willing to let slide to play together. Also, even though Matthew isn't the best at prepping, he really excels during sessions, making everyone feel like they're part of the story. The effort he puts into NPC, roleplay, and voices, it's truly impressive. And that's my D&D horror story. I'm sharing it to get your thoughts, and if I'm at fault, I'm open to hearing that. ELDR? The DM put in minimal work while his clueless brother, who didn't understand his character and even used ChatGPT for his backstory, derailed the campaign. When his leniency was finally called out, the DM got defensive, and everything fell apart. I don't think you're at fault. These two definitely have problems, and their inability to hear criticism is bad. I don't think a DM refusing to prep sessions is a good thing. Did he check in with the group to make sure that they're having a good time despite his brother's shenanigans? And speaking of that brother, yeah, a person who generates everything with ChatGPT and clearly doesn't care much for the game, that could break immersion. If you're getting super into your roleplay, getting super emotional, and someone's staring at you, not really engaging, it kind of can throw you off. Steven is essentially a popcorn player. The guy is just there to hang out with other people. What he cares about is not really Dungeons and Dragons. And that's fine, but not with every group, and clearly not with you guys. Popcorn player is not a big deal in my home game because that's a more casual thing. But if I had a popcorn player in my streamed game where everybody's like role-playing up a storm and being super in character and super emotional, okay, that might make people uncomfortable. Ask the other players about their issues with this player. I don't think their roleplay being subpar is really that big of a deal. Everyone can improve over time, especially when they're new. But if he's so unimmersed from the game that's taking other people out of the experience, then that is a problem. A few years ago, I ran a long campaign with my friends that had a pretty big focus on romance. My players love treating D&D like a dating simulator. In fact, they just adopt NPCs really easily in general, which I was fine with and communicated with them from the very beginning about this, that they could romance NPCs. That didn't mean it wasn't a challenge, being arrow ace and terrible at flirting, but we didn't take it too seriously, and by the time the campaign ended, after a few years, I was quite good at role-playing romance and flirting. So when they asked for a sequel to the campaign, I knew I could up the ante. I decided to make my big bad evil guy for this sequel a lich. The players tried to befriend the big bad evil guy of the campaign, and I was also well aware of the big bad evil guy being defeated because they were seduced by the resident bard. So I decided to design a BBEG that was arguably more dangerous if he managed to fall in love with you. I created a lich that collects things of interest that place him in pocket dimensions like ant farms and rewards his greatest loves the privilege of being trapped in a gemstone to wear in his jewelry. Solid counter to any attempt to stop him with the power of love. That is an awesome idea. I'm stealing that. Dude, good job, man. Then I thought, wouldn't it be even funnier if instead of the party seducing the big bad evil guy, the big bad evil guy seduced the party, with the lich being a very curious personality that had been trapped in his phylactery for a long time. It was very easy to put him in disguise and have the party stumble upon him. I was very certain one of my players would fall for him. After years of running a romance plotline for them in my last campaign, I was very aware of my party's taste. Let me guess. Dark, brooding, long coat, black hair, probably white. Let's be real with ourselves. Yeah, I know what the ladies like. That is, I knew their taste save for one. One of my players stopped playing D&D towards the end of the first campaign. With the sequel, we didn't want only 2 players again. My player invited a new friend of theirs, someone I wasn't familiar with, but after some session 0 testing and discussion, we found her to be a pretty good match to the group, who was also really down for the idea of playing D&D, the dating simulator. We'll name her Beatrice. I tossed a few romanceable NPCs that I thought she might like, but it was definitely hit or miss with her. The big bad evil guy had a vested interest in Beatrice's character for secret backstory reasons. So a few sessions after meeting the party in disguise, he appeared in the player character's dreams. His full, deer-headed lich form in all of its glory, and this is, yeah, who wouldn't be seduced by that? Yeah! It was at this moment I realized that this was exactly Beatrice's type. Oh, yeah! So not only did my big bad evil guy manage to do someone in the party, he started a freaking love triangle between them. Coupled with the fact that my players also collected love triangles of their own, I ended up with 4 love triangles between only 3 players. Fortunately, this didn't derail the campaign by much. It was just physically painful to not reveal the dramatic irony until the time was just right. The disguised big bad evil guy would drop hints that he wasn't the best person to one player, and the undisguised BBEG would imply he was secretly with someone else to the other player. They got so close to figuring it out. Their main theory leading up to the reveal was that the big bad evil guy was dating his own alter ego. However, the reveal was absolutely worth it all. I have never had a villain pull off this much hatred from the players. The euphoria I had when hamming it up as the world's worst cheating boyfriend, all while sensing the fury silently radiating from the players. It was unmatched. I understand why people love to play heels in wrestling now. They've always been very engaged players, but with this reveal, I have never seen them more motivated. One is multi-classing into Paladin specifically to obliterate his undead ass.
Great Archangel, I seek your might. I wish to smite my enemies with holy light. Why do you seek this power, child? My boyfriend cheated on me. Well, let's just get over this, does honey? Yes, I feel the power!
So, lesson learned. Want to make someone your party hates? Make him personally betray them. Maybe some soap opera levels of relationship drama too. Oh, this one is good. I really like glory stories like this. There is still a horror element in the fact that this could have gone very, very wrong. But notice why it didn't go wrong. Communication. All the party are well aware of what kind of game this is. And did it ruin the surprise of the game? Hell no. Clearly, this twist was pulled off really, really well. Some people think, oh, if I have a session 0, I'm practically going to be spoiling my whole campaign. I won't be able to shock my players unless I randomly spring slavery or torture or racism on them. But guys, if you need those things to be a surprise in order for it to be scary, you have a skill issue. This DM pulled off this twist masterfully, came up with an incredible big bad evil guy idea, and generally did a good job. Well done. The horror story begins with the next campaign I joined. This was a group of people I've been friends with and playing D&D with for years. One of the players, we'll call him Bob, was also a dungeon master and decided he'd run a homebrew game for us. I told a story about previous racism issues that I faced and quickly informed Bob in front of the other players that I had one hard boundary. I did not want to be part of any other form of fantasy racism, directed my characters at NPCs or other player characters. I would not participate in the game with the racism or the parallels. Bob assured me that he would run a session 0 and cover everyone's boundaries and hard lines before the game began. But he didn't. You know what that means. I just assumed he'd remember my boundary. It was the only boundary any of the players had given. It is important to note that I'm the only non-white person in the group, and I was the only one playing a fey character. What's that like? I can't empathize with that. That's crazy. The game begins and everything is going okay for a minute. Alright, tangent time. The party joined a festival during the early sessions, and one of the activities is sort of non-lethal battle royale. We're all having fun, test driving our new characters in combat. We've got a solid strategy, and we seem to be winning. Then the cleric casts a spell on an NPC, and it just instantly kills him.
Did we all hear that? I like it when they all burn to death. It's great.
It's just a really cool.
The The Battle Royale is shut down, the NPC is revived by the festival medics, and the cleric is thrown in jail. The cleric player protests as everyone in the game knew it was non-lethal. She did not mean to kill anyone, and he was instantly revived. This was session 1, and only the second character she'd ever played, so she was far from a seasoned veteran. The DM says that you can't use magic non-lethally, and she should have known it would kill him. The DM then spends months complaining that we weren't supposed to get thrown in jail and blaming the cleric for derailing the story because now we have to spend several sessions pleading our case and working off our prison debt. This also kills everyone's excitement for the game because instead of going on character-related quests, we're running errands for the government and essentially doing community service. Bro is the god of this world.
Stop!
You can just choose not
You
to throw
violated
them
the
in
law.
jail.
Pay the court.
We were all grasping at straws, trying to find excuses for our characters to care what happened to the cleric, because on top of all this, they just met. We had no time to bond. Okay, here's where the actual horror comes in, though. I end up having to leave the country for work for a few months. The DM assures me that he can temporarily write my character out by having her get sick, and the party will go on some quest to heal her while I'm gone. So off I go. While I'm away, I get game updates every now and then. During one of these updates, I discover how the DM planned for her to get sick. A radical Fae hate group tried to assassinate her with a Fae-infecting poison. Not only that, but the hate group was formed during a human and Fae war. The Fae won and enslaved the humans, and now all the humans have a deep hatred of the Fae. I'm shocked. Not only did Bob create a race kerfuffle, but he also created an entire racist group to hate crime my character. I didn't bring it up for a while because at this point, I'm in another country, and 2, I liked my character and didn't want to cause problems in the game when I finally got back to play her. The other players in the group have noticed what's happening, but nobody said anything. I ended up sending them a message. They started dropping hints to Bob that this isn't cool, but he didn't seem to see the issue. Eventually, I rejoined the table. My character is miraculously cured, and I'm caught up on everything. It turns out the hate group knows I'm not dead, and they won't stop until they succeed in killing me. I finally send a message to Bob, just reminding him of my boundary and saying it's not cool to have this plotline, and if it's vital to the story, then I'll just leave the game, but I don't want to subject myself to this stuff. Gives a half-hearted apology, mostly claiming that he didn't mean for it to come off as racist. Average YouTuber apology.
Hey everyone. This is a video that is a long time in the making. And it's a video about the accusations that have been leveled against me. Accusations of racism. We can't define a person by their worst moments. I wasn't even racist. I didn't mean to be racist. And people just took the story and ran with it.
I hate minorities. They
Isn't that
suck. I think they're all terrible.
That's your voice,
I
man.
want them all
That's crazy.
gone. I despise
That sounds like,
minorities.
I don't know, that sounds pretty racist.
He started telling me there was supposed to be some kind of mystery around it, that I was actually attacked by someone from my actual backstory. They were just posing as a hate group to avoid suspicion, and we were supposed to investigate and discover that ourselves. So there was no actual racism. Personally, if I was hate crimed in public, I would probably get away from that person as quickly as possible, not investigate why that happened, because surely they're not actually racist. Something more must be afoot. Whether the assassin was actually racist or not is not really relevant. I was subjected to racism as my character. I later learned that he planned to gradually write out the racism plot, which he did not okay with me or communicate what was happening. So in the meantime, I'm supposed to just keep dealing with this, I guess. Ever since the conversation, there have been no plot hooks for my character, no mentions of anything from her actual backstory I wrote, which makes me feel like the only thing he had planned for her was the racism, and now that that's off the table, he doesn't know what to do. Well, anyway, some of his other crimes. B was weirdly controlling in character creation. He strong-armed my friend into playing a cleric when she really wanted to play something else. He told me my character couldn't be a runaway royal because the country already had a prince and he was an only child, and I couldn't have any previous secret romance with the prince because he already had a partner. I tried to simply say that my character, okay, maybe admired the prince and maybe they'd grown close as friends, and he told me that wasn't allowed either because the prince is cold and cruel. I know he's cold and cruel, but perhaps my friendship could cure his ailment.
There's no cure for being a cunt.
This was all before the game had even started, so fitting player characters into lore would not have been difficult. He also has a railroady DMing style in general. Like the time I tried to negotiate the price of a horse and cart, I tried flirting, offering free advertisement, saying our mission was very important, offering our services in return. I tried threatening the guy, and I wasn't even allowed to roll persuasion because there was only one tactic that would have worked on this merchant, and I didn't try it. I never found out what that tactic was. Kill him. He's constantly saying, if you'd gone down Tunnel B, there would have been a treasure room with magic items for you, but you took Tunnel A, and now the cave has collapsed and you can't go back. Your loss. I challenged him once to paint a mini that was a person of color, since all his minis were one skin tone. One. He responded by showing me a human he'd painted purple. In our previous campaigns, he played a homebrew class that was able to copy any spell he saw someone cast. So every time we long rested, he'd ask for everyone to use all their leftover spell slots and essentially could cast all the spells anyone in the party could cast, except mine because I just refused to show him. Not D&D related, but one time he tried to tell me I was wrong about and explain to me my literal genetics. This white dude told me my Punnett square for my own Asian heritage simply because I just sounded incorrect to him. You need to send me that Punnett square, bro. That would be so funny. In the meantime, leave this game. Apparently this person hasn't left this game yet, and my question is why? I know all the social trap stuff, but there's no cure for this kind of thing. You're not gonna convince him to stop being racist. It's just gonna keep on pissing you off. So leave. You've already tried explaining the issues to the other players at the table, and while they dropped subtle hints, man, I don't know, that's not enough for me. If someone is being blatantly racist at my D&D table, they're gone. 100%. I have left people behind for far less than this. And everyone thinks kicking someone from a game or leaving a game, it has to be some catastrophic disaster, and that's why so many people choose not to do it. But it doesn't need to be a fight. You could just say, hey, I'm busy with work, I need to try something else. And that is okay. Don't stay in this game, dude. Even for the freak stories, it ain't worth it. Hey, that's a wrap. Not gonna lie, this one kept me up pretty late, but I enjoy recording it. If you guys enjoyed watching, please do check out our last episode of Critical Failure. We talked about a dude who was pretending to be Japanese in order to push his point of view. It's linked in the cards. But before you go, please leave a like on this one and subscribe to Crispy's Tavern so you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories, thoughts, you can head down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment love triangle to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, and comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.